Hello. And it goes to record, but there's no picture coming up. Oh, that would help. Okay.
Is concerning prophecies, concerning Nostradamus, the Bible Code, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Lady of Fatima, and now we have more to deal with. The Mayan calendar, St. Malachi. What are these prophecies all about? They all talk about an end-of-the-world scenario. Is it really going to be the end of the world on December 21st, 2012? Even if it is, are you going to survive that? Are you going to be protected by God? Well, I talk about angels in this book and how they're going to surround your soul, your spirit, if it is to take place. And you should not live your life crazy from now on. Don't live it havically. In other words, throwing care to the wind. Because if it doesn't happen, you're still here. Don't go selling your stocks and your houses and just go off on a cruise somewhere. You live each day as it comes. No matter what happens in the near future, it's still going to be here. Okay? And if it is the end of the world, is there anything thereafter? That I give you a very good answer. Yes, there is something, and it's beautiful. It's miraculous. It's beautiful. It's fantastic, okay? What I am telling you is that if it does happen, your soul and your spirit is surrounded by angels, and you'll be transported to another earth similar to this. And you'll be in bodies just like this. Perfection, no pollution. Okay, now I know what other clairvoyants out there say, that it's going to be a spiritual upheaval on this planet, a coming together. Well, a lot of religions out there in the world still think that the true religion is the only religion to be listened to. And they have arguments with everybody else. Let's take, for instance, the Muslims, the Islamics, or even the Roman Catholics, or other sects of Christianity. They're all fighting against each other. But we have to, you as people, have to bring everybody else together. You must do it on your own. You know, I could tell you here, this is what the reality is from God. I do say that I speak from God. I give you proof right there on a pamphlet of a picture. And this picture is God in his least amount of power presence. Now, how do I know that? That's really, I leave this up to you to decide. I had a first visitation from this higher spirit by my asking him in 1995. With certain friends up in New Jersey, I went on a trip. And I write about it in this book. And what took place on that one day was that an instamatic camera went off by itself. My friend was sleeping on one couch in the living room, and I was resting on the other couch waiting for a friend named John to come by. And as I had my eyes closed meditating, I was listening to a song, You've Got a Friend. I had asked God for his visitation, his presence, but I knew I was asking him a bunch of questions about our future. Because I heard about Nostradamus at that time, and asked him questions about how do we, you know, am I a person to help the world understand these prophecies? And I asked him about, is there a day of fire? Is there angels going to appear around people? Different things. And I knew all the questions I asked would have to have a yes answer for him to appear. Well, when this camera went off, there was a camera in the room, an instamatic camera that went off, and I heard it. And I remembered my conversation prior to this trip, and I knew that if I opened up my eyes, I could be blinded. Fear of it. Oh, that famous word, fear. This is not all about fear. It's all about what really is to happen. It's for you to understand. So when I opened up my eyes, I saw this camera ready to fall off the TV like that, with the picture jutted out of it. And it was a dark room, no flash or anything, so what kind of a picture you think we would have got? Dark or black, okay? I waited till the friend showed up, and with another, then my other friend woke up. The three of us, I told him what took place, and we looked at the film together. At that time, we saw that it was solid white, shades of white coming from the center. Now, in 2000, I was told by this spirit that I would be writing a book. Now, that picture I lost. And even if I had it, I wouldn't be able to use it in a book. Because anybody can write a book about what they had listened to or had experiences. But I said, if I'm going to write this book, I need your presence. I need a picture of you. And that white picture would not be standing out. You put a reporter around a white picture against white paper, what do I see? All right? So I asked him again in late 2000, December, for his appearance again. Asked him a lot of questions about the future as well. And on January 10th of '01, he displayed himself again while I was taking a picture of a friend in my house. I felt him go right through me and appear over this person's head. And that's what you see. And I also had some other visitations, and I even had one on my high school reunion in 2005, where I was actually asking him about this book. I had seen the number 3. When I deal with God and prophecies, I ask to use the number 3. Why? Because the understanding of the spirituality of the number. What planet are we from the sun? The 3rd planet. And what day did he give light to the planet according to what is written? 3rd day. And when you look at all the prophets down through the history of humanity, you have the number 3 appear around them. Or 33 or 333. Well, you're like, look at Jesus Christ. All right? When he died, he was 33 years old. How many years did he preach? 3 years. How many people were on the cross with him? There was 3 of them. Okay, and a lot of other things that took place. When you look at prophecy, the number 3 appears all the time. And 3 can be good or it can be bad. Any numbers, okay? Numerology, God deals with numerology all the time. Even in the Holy Bible, he uses the numbers. Like the number 7 for perfection. So, I can tell you what took place at my high school reunion was that all that day I did not see the 3 appear. And here I was invited to go to the high school reunion because of this book. I didn't graduate with the class, okay? And I didn't hang out with all of my classmates when I was going to school. I was too busy working like a young man, okay? Just go to school and then go to work. And then have my own little clique of friends afterwards. So I said to him that day, I said, I didn't see the number 3 and I don't know whether I'm going to go to this reunion. So if I don't see the number 3s, I'm not going to stay at the reunion. I get to my hotel room, I've got about 50 books I'm going to bring to the reunion to give out. No, I don't want to carry them there and have them to bring them back. Because I'm not going to stay if I don't see them. I have yet to see them. I get to the reunion. And, well, first of all, let me step back. That morning I ran into a friend who knew me when I went to school there and worked in this town. And we talked about the prophecies. We talked about the book. Then we talked about dreams. How do you feel about dreams? I said, well, it all depends upon what the meaning is. He said, well, he had a dream about a person bumping their head. All right? And he said, well, maybe I'm talking to you. It could mean to you. So when I got to the reunion early, and there was a couple of gentlemen at the door, and I said, is anybody here for the reunion? They said, well, there's one guy that just arrived. He's at the bar. Maybe you'd like to sit down and talk with him. So I went in and I sat down and talked with him, and I noticed what was on the top of his head, a bump. Now, does this mean that I stay there? I realized that realized the dream that it fulfilled. Now, is it possible that I could have been tricked because they knew of me being a clairvoyant and what I wrote? So they knew each other, and they said, well, you're going to meet the guy's there with the bump on the head. So I'm saying, hey, God, I left the books behind. I see the guy with the bump on the head. I'm talking inside my 3rd eye. Because I feel if you talk to God, you talk inside. Because nobody else can hear that. Even with the many spirits, I was taught at a young age, do not talk openly if you're talking to God. Because you have many spirits that can intercept what you're asking. They can actually divert what you're asking, okay? Let's say you want to ask God something, hey, I need a car, God. All right? Do you ask him openly? Because you could wind up not getting a car if you're open about it. So I figured, I'll talk to him inside. I realized this bump, I said, excused myself from talking to him. I went out on the patio of this place. And at that moment, I'm starting to talk to God. I said, I have yet to see the number 3s. Now, if I don't see the number 3s, I'm going to walk away from the book. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm living my life the way I want. I'm not going to stay for the reunion and everything else thereafter. And a few other questions, okay, about our future. Well, I sort of noticed in front of the vacate of the building on the front, there was 2 sets of balloons, 35 and 35. And I said, now you know it as well as I do that the 3s have to be on their own. Not part of any number, not totaling any number, solid. 333 or 333. Well, when I got done with the conversation with him, and about ready to walk in, do I get a tap on the shoulder, and the voice say to me, look up. At that moment, I saw these 2 balloons, the 2 3s, deflated and hanging by the strings that were holding them up. Now I asked them, I sent a letter to all my classmates from that reunion, and I said, now who do you think did that? Was that my electricity or was that God? So now, in the book, I leave this up to you. When I say realism, it's up to you to decide whether this is real or not. Now, I am making another copy of this book, adding more information, and giving you some clearer understanding. And the aspect that there was a little grammar error in this. But now, the aspect of what did this book do? What is the prophecies all about? Is it just there to tell us this is our future? Now, the prophecies were written so we can avert disasters. And we've already been doing that. I've been doing it. Everybody has their own little jobs in life, what they do. You're walking in your life. You're walking in your life. You have Jill Day, you have James Caper, you have Sean David Vaughan. They're all teaching you things. But there's some people that have jobs that have to deal with running the world, running your country. All right, so when I sat down and I wrote this in 2002, I wrote a lot of things. I even wrote about the Bible code. And in this book, I wrote, when I sat down, I stated that use my name, Homey, Prophet and Vengeance. It would unlock the code for it could tell you your past, your present, and your future. Now, I've told this to even a friend I hadn't seen in 36 years in the year 2000. And she brought the CD to my house on the Bible code, and we popped it in. She knew how to use Hebrew, and we brought up my name. It was very easy. Now, the thing is that when I sat down to write this, I did not know that Mr. Michael Drosden put this book out in 2002, the hardback. This I was able to get in 2000, at the end of 2003. This is after I put this in print. Did I notice at the end of his introduction, and I'll read this to you. Finally, 3 things forced me to continue my quest. September 11th, brutal proof that the warnings encoded in the Bible were all too real. The spiral of violence in the Middle East that threatened to engulf the entire world in war, and a startling discovery that might lead to the ultimate truth behind the Bible code. This book begins a search for the key that may unlock the code completely, reveal our forgotten past, and our entire future. And now the search has become urgent because the Bible code warns that we may have only 3 years left to live on this planet, basically. And this was put out in 2004. The 2003 hardback, he says 4 years. Now, that's because he doesn't know the understanding of it. And here I said I gave the key. But you see, in the beginning of January of 2003, the United Nations Security Council was going to sit down and vote for a second time whether to go to war with the United States and Iraq. That's kind of funny that they didn't go to war with us, the United States. Why? Well, there's somebody that had to deal with that. And I did talk to the French mission of the United Nations, plus France, Russia, Germany, and our own mission at the UN, the Security Council, days before they would go to vote. They got the first unedited version of this, had copyright infringement all over it. The French I was unaware, I was told to do this by God, and I was unaware at that time that the French were the head of the Security Council for that month. The French take the prophecies of Nostradamus very strongly. And I gave them a copy of the book, and my talking with them, I said, if you go to war with them, if anybody goes to war, you're going to have a lot of problems hereafter. Matter of fact, we could even have World War III. So what do you think they did? They voted not to go to war. Now, how can I say that and have proof that this book has really done that? Well, you see, I had a conversation with a couple of other friendly clairvoyants, and they said, yes, your book did have something to do with the war in Iraq. And in March of this year, on a show with my friend Derek White Skycloud, who's a clairvoyant in British Columbia, he has a show on Tuesday nights called Between Two Worlds. While we were doing the show, I mentioned something about the book with Iraq, and he said, yes, it did have something to do with the war in Iraq. Because if you did have, they did join forces with the United States, you would have had World War III. And that's a reality. Right now, the prophecies are there for us to avert things of the future. That's why they were written down. And now, as far as 2012 is concerned, Mr. Nostradamus, this is the third book I received as a gift from people in the year 1996. And I'm not supposed to use this by the original author, Henry C. Roberts. I can tell you, Robert Lawrence, third grandson of him, told me not to use this, okay? He knows, his lawyer said to me, the way I had printed out the book originally, he said, we know it's your divine right to do so, but we ask you to stop disseminating the book in its form. And I said, okay, no problem, I'll take out everything. No more copyright infringements. I'll do it another way, and that's how I got this. Okay? The thing is, in this book, there's a letter to his dedication to the son Caesar. In that dedication letter, he does talk about destruction of planets. And he does talk about fire and flame, a messenger that's going to talk to you all at a particular time. And he does talk about a 7,000-year monarchy in one of his prophecies. Now, a 7,000-year monarchy, that's in century 10, quatrain 74. Now, what do you mean, excuse me, that's the wrong one. That's century 1, quatrain 48. What is 7,000 years? Humanity is not, how long has humanity been on this planet? 5,000, 6,000 years, but we've all had different governments. Not one solid government. And when you look at God's kingdom, it's a monarchy. You have him, and you have all the angels, you have all the cherubs, it's like an army, okay? And you have all the spirit guides. Now, the aspect is, what really is the future? Will it really happen on December 21st, 2012? Well, would you go by the book of Matthew of the Holy Bible? In Matthew 24, he says, you'll know the season, but not the day nor the hour. Now, I had just put something up on my website concerning that date. I said, give it at least 3 years thereafter, and something might happen. And now, if you don't have this happen, can you imagine what will be on this world? You'll still have pollution. You'll still have people believing that they're the true religion. You'll still have fights amongst everybody. You'll have wars. Think about that. Is God going to come here and dish into the sea and pull out all the ships that are at the bottom of the ocean? All that metal and the things that are there? No, he's not going to do that. If you're talking about God, the reality, I can tell you, the governments don't want you to know the real aspect. And all the other clairvoyants are going to not try to tell you this because it's going to scare people. When you see the movies that come out very soon, how many people are going to see this and they're going to have a little bit of upsetness? Why? Because they fear of sin. Okay, will God save me? I did all these things wrong. Now, God is a very forgiving God, and is not going to be worried about sins, okay? It's the aspect of how you treat each other. And people are going to think about beliefs when they see these movies. Now, why now am I talking to you for the first time in my life? At a lecture at this time. It's kind of funny when I talk about threes, and I brought this to attention to a couple of my friends in the clairvoyant industry. And I said, the date that I gave my first lecture yesterday was 9/12/09. 3 times the power of 3 gives you 9. 1 and 2 make 3. And I actually, told me to go ahead and figure it out. From December 21st, 2012 until yesterday, it was 3 years, 102 days. 102. One and two make 3. 33. All right, and even like 3 months or whatever. Everything is all according to plan. There's a lot of things involved. So, you know, all I'm doing here is saying, I'm putting out a new book, giving everybody a chance to read something out there. And I do have attention, even I can tell you this much, I was a minister for 3 years back in 1970, 71, and 72 of, let's say, the Jehovah's Witnesses, okay? I'm being very open and honest here. They don't listen to other things besides the Holy Bible, especially Nostradamus. They even asked me one time when I approached them with this, would you like for us to publish it? I said, no way. Because I'm not supposed to be a part of any organization. I'm giving you an unbiased opinion of different things of what is taking place. Now, 2012, now, that's something that we just have to wait and see. Just live our lives every day as it comes. Do what you want to do what you're supposed to do. You ask clairvoyance, what's going to happen in my life next week? Who am I going to meet? Am I going to get married? Am I going to do this? That's for you to do. Live your lives accordingly. Don't think of what's going to be on 2012, or whether it could be 2013 or 2014. Just live your life each day. Because I can tell you this much, if he's going to do something, it's going to be like this. Quick. He doesn't want to have it happen like he did in the flood. Because during the flood, you know how many people didn't listen to Noah? Noah went about and said he was going to be a flood. All right? So reality is, now this time he doesn't want that. You're all getting to hear, the people out there are getting to hear this stuff. Let it go. All right? And that's basically why I'm giving this lecture. Now, as far as anything else on Nostradamus, let's say about 9/11. He wrote 3 prophecies on that day, for that day. He didn't mention the date, but he did write about 3 things. One thing was that there was a bird of prey that would overcome the city. Airplanes. When he wrote about a king shall enter the new city, that was Osama bin Laden. He didn't enter in the city, but he sent his men. And as far as 1999 in July, he wrote in Century 10, Quatrain 72, he writes about July of 1999. Well, what happened during that? What king came from the sky? JFK Jr. His plane accident on July 16th. I was even asked during that month, before that happened, they said, Homey, what's going to happen? Is it going to be war or something? I said, no war, not for another couple of years. And when JFK went down on the plane crash, I said, that's your king. He was a king in his own right. He started George Magazine, he had power of his own people, plus his royal bloodline from Ireland. And it says that he would be alarmed. Well, he was alarmed that night. He didn't know how to fly at night. The proof, it was stated that he never had flight license during night. So he didn't know where he was, so he was alarmed. And how many people were on board? 3. And every time you look at 9/11, how many times you see the number 3 appear? How old were the hijackers? Most of them were 33. How many buildings went down that day? 3 in that area. Okay? And you look at the date itself, 3 ones, 9/11/01, and 3 times the power of 3 is 9. And how many states were actually hit? New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. 3 locations. And the time of the morning, about 9 o'clock or whatever, but everything was falling into place. Now, did our government know anything about 9/11? Yes, our government knew that something was going to happen. Now, as far as the buildings, there's stuff out there that they were imploded, these buildings. Yes, they were imploded. And I'll tell you why. Even though the government knew that something was going to happen, they didn't know when or how. They knew if there was something drastic that was going to happen to these buildings, what would happen to the rest of the area? How many people would be dead? What would it do if the buildings fell into the financial district? And what it would do, bring a lot of chaos and destroy that area of the country, or that town. So in order to minimize death and destruction, they said if something was going to happen drastic that they would have to implode it, they will do it. When you go to war, they want to try to minimize death. And when you have like police that do raids on let's say drugs or whatever, they try to do something without very little casualty. They check it out first, what can they do to minimize any accidents that could happen. So the same thing that happened that day. Now if they told the public, this is going to happen, how many people wouldn't go to work? What do you think, the whole city would stop and go? Don't go to work? That's not going to happen. They couldn't do that. They're not going to tell you that. You got to think about the aspects of what reality is. So they did the best they could to minimize death. It's a good thing a lot of people didn't go to work that day because there was supposed to be about 8,000 people in those buildings. You had, what, about 3,600 people? That's including the firemen and stuff like that, and the other policemen that went into the building. You had a lot of people that didn't go to work that day because they spoke to clairvoyants. Do not go to work that day. I know for a fact with even my friend Derek White Skycloud, he had a client in New York City. He said, don't go to work that day. He didn't go to work. He was very thankful. How many people were going into that building to go to work that day and they were pulled away by spirit guides? Okay? So the reality is, well, why did God let these things happen? He gave humanity free will for all this time. He has laws of himself that he has to deal with, of physics and balance in the universes. So, and that's the reality. You had to let things happen. So at that point, 9/11 took place. Didn't it open up the doors for everybody to understand spirituality? A lot more people starting to let me see what this is all about. Especially how many people watched the movie of Nostradamus in 1981 that talked about New York City being bombed. A lot of people, and I've talked to some where it actually changed their lives. When they saw that happening, how many did leave or move out of New York City? I myself lived in New York, and I lived in Jersey at the time. I even spoke to my older brother who lives in Brooklyn, New York, and works in Staten Island, months before it took place. And I said to my brother, don't worry, something is going to happen in New York very soon, and you're going to be fine. It's not going to be blowing up the whole area, but something will happen. So, and he's still alive. He's very happy. Now, does anybody have any questions? I think I fulfilled a lot of their questions on some aspects. Does anybody have any questions?
Is the economy going to collapse? Or?
The economy is going to get better. I mean, but I've heard it with other clairvoyants. They say the same thing. It's going to turn around. It's, you got to give yourself time. It doesn't just happen overnight. Sometime by the end of this year and into next year, it's going to start changing. I can tell you, back somewhere around March, I was on the phone with a friend from New Jersey where I gave lectures, and they've known me as being clairvoyant. And I've done that many times on things. And he said to me, is the stock market going to go up? I said, over the course of the next 4 or 5 months. Well, the next day it jumped up 300 points. And now it's up to 9,500 points. Back then it was like about 8,000. So it's turning around. It takes a little time, but not overnight. You had a question.
I'm sorry, I came in a little bit late. I was stuck with the directions I got. But you emphasized the number 3. You might have addressed that before. But why is number 3 so? I mean, I realize there's numerology and there's the vibration of that number. But what does that mean to you that you emphasize that?
Well, with me, when I talk to God and when I get information from God, I just don't deal with any spirit out there. And so when I talk with God, I ask for information with the number 3. Now you say, well, I'm open about it here. Why, maybe I'm talking to other spirits now, maybe trying to contact me with number 3. But you see, when I talk to God inside here, I ask him specific questions, and how he answers me, I know it's him. So no spirits can mess with me. All right? right? You know, I talk to other clairvoyants. I say, how do you pray to God? Openly. Well, you continue to pray openly and see how many times you're wrong. In my own aspect. And you know, I have a good record with some people. This is the first time I'm talking to publicly people. And when I've talked to these certain groups of people up in Wisconsin and in New Jersey, I've never been wrong. But there's times that I've been wrong because I use my own human instinct on some things. I can tell you, I do a prophecy night show with Jill Dane, Derek White, Sky Cloud, Scott Christensen, and a lady named Cattell from Las Vegas, along with Victor Baines, the director of the Nostradamus Society of America. On one show back in 2006, I said that there would be a major earthquake that would hit at the end of January. Well, that's all I was told to tell the people. But you see, in my mind, I said, well, I have to give a location. So what I did, I went against his will, and I thought, well, where could it possibly be? Well, how about California? That's the best location. Well, I said California, but you see, there was an earthquake that took place, a drastic earthquake, and I said it would be in the range of 7 to 8. And it turned out, it took place at the end of January of 2007, and it took place in Indonesia. 7 to 8, and there was like 5,500 people killed. So, you know, that's it. Go ahead.
Is there any country in particular that you think is going to be safer than others?
Doesn't matter where you are. You know, in the book of Matthew, it says that one person will stand, one man will stand, one man will fall, one lady will stand, one lady will fall. You know, it's the aspect of who believes in God. It doesn't matter what your religion is, just that you believe in God. Don't worry about sin. You know, you could sin. You know, many people, the religions teach you different aspects of what sins are. You could be sinning in one religion and not sinning in the other, what it is, okay? Like I smoke, okay? That's bad for the body. That's destroying the temple of God. In some religions, it's okay. Right? And different things that you do. Right? So, you know, like some religions, they say you marry one person. Well, in the eyes of God, when you gave birth, that's when you're married. Okay? Now you have paperwork involved. So some people have 3 or 4 wives in some religions, and in some religions they teach you it's wrong. So the aspect is, don't worry about what's going to happen. Just remember, it's your belief in God. And when the time does come, it's going to be quick. It's not going to be like they're talking about in movies, floods and this and that. It's going to be real fast. I can tell you, I know I got a vision of what's going to take place on that particular time, and I turned to a friendly clairvoyant, and she said to me, is that what's going to happen on that day? I said, well, that's what I got. Out of all the years that I've been clairvoyant and had knowledge of prophetic writings, it was the first time I ever got that. So, you know, I'd asked him, I said, what's really going to happen? And he gave me a vision. And he didn't give me the time frame, he just said, this is going to happen. I saw my own death. I said, I'm glad. I have a sister who sat down and had dinner with me and Victor Baines in 2004. She said she sees life, if it's an X, it's an X, if it's a no, it's a no. In other words, you know, blinded about everything. Didn't believe in God. I talked to her a few weeks ago on her birthday, and we were talking about 2012. She said, I hope it's tomorrow. She said, I'm fed up with all these religions. I believe in God, what you're telling me, but I hope it's tomorrow. Because why? Because it gives it, I give you a better understanding of what could take place thereafter. Even with the spiritual upheaval that we're having now, and what's going on, how long will it take for all the religions to come together? Will it take really 3 years? Will it take 15 years? Could it take 25 years? I talk to Muslims, and they ask me what's going to happen in 2012. And you talk, and there's some Muslims out there that they think their religion is the true religion. Why do you think they have the Al-Qaeda network? So, I think that's about enough for today, and I got to finish up here. Go ahead.
Did you ask them about the resurrection of the dead?
Well, you see, you know, you talked about the resurrection of the dead. You're actually getting a lot of spirits coming out, showing themselves these days. They're coming out of their graves, really. The more and more each year. Even Nostradamus, I can tell you, Nostradamus wrote in about 7 years past the great number, which is 1999. That's in century 10, quatrain 74. Some people say, yeah, the dead will come out of the graves. It's not literally coming out of the graves. It's the spiritual uplifting, you know, how they're visitation to everybody. That's what it's all about. You're getting it more and more every year. You know, a lot of things are symbolic. So, you know, you can't read, you got to read between the lines.
There will be survivors, the people who believe in God.
Yes, you'll be surviving. The thing is, whether it could be this planet or another planet. And I can tell you, it's beautiful. As I said before, you're in the similar bodies to this, no diseases, perfection, no deformalities. And just think about, if you're living on this planet with all the pollution, do you know that the water supply that you're drinking right now is very bad? Think about it. All the medications that people take in their bodies, that doesn't break down in their bodies, goes into your water supply. And they don't have a system that can take those medications out of the water supply. They can purify the water to a certain degree, but not take that out. You have another question back there? No.
Will this better world be in this physical universe, or will it be in the astral or another dimension?
Well, I can tell you this much, it's in another universe. I got to quit now because time is up. So, now I will sign, if everybody would like to put your email address down on the book pad, and I'll let you know when the new book will come out. And let you know when I'll appear again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's see this.
Thanks on this. Okay, by the way, let me sign your CD before you leave.
Okay.